Marky Worthington Podcast all day.
All day.
Dream by night.
Don't buy me a drink. Just give me $10.
All day.
Go down to the strip club with your floppy disk and turn it into a hard drive.
Yeah, bro. You'll get fucking thrown out by Big Tony.
We're here to name names and make people feel more ashamed for shit that they're not proud of.
Don't blow it. Keep it simple. Count your money.
Oh, whatever it is.
Hello and welcome to the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. This is episode 102 with repeat guest on the show, first time in a while, the one and only, my brother, Lukey Worthington.
Hey, thanks for having me. I think it's nice to hear repeat and not have a fender followed by that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's a bit like when I did the interview with Tim Jacobus, like, who was like, yeah, cool, I'll do the podcast. But the fact that he said yes when I asked him the second time means that, like, it shows more that he actually enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, I mean, any publicity is good publicity, right?
Yeah, well, not all, but in his case, it was good to have him on. It did more publicity for me than him. But one day, maybe, it'll be good for everybody. Yeah, so last time I had you on the show, it was good. Good to, people come in, they're like, oh, I didn't even know you had a brother, and then they know more about you just from listening to a podcast and they never met you.
Yeah, I think that's a really weird thing. I think people I haven't met before that are like, oh, man, I've heard so much about you. I'm like, oh, have you been, like, Mark, do you, like, one of his friends? And they're like, oh, no, there's just an episode of the podcast where he tells a story about you. And I'm like, oh, fuck, like... What do you fucking know, cunt? Like, it's like, especially too, it's like the, or I get mistaken, like when I come to Canberra, I get mistaken for you a lot. Like, anytime I walk through Belco, people are like, oi, Marky. And I'm like,
I'm the king of Belconnor.
Yeah, that's it. Well, fucking got to be the king of something, right?
I've moved up. I was the king of Kaylane, bro.
And it's like the fucking people like, oh, fucking, they're like, oh, no, well, I guess now I have to get to know, like, at least get to know you a little bit because I just mistaken you for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they feel like they owe you something now. They fucked it up.
Yeah, it's like, oh fuck, now I got to talk to the cunt that I've got his attention.
Oh man, yeah. Hey, it's it all goes around, and it's not just the comedy scene, but it happened before the comedy scene. It used to happen all the time in the metal scene. So people that know the metal scene, it probably recognize you. It's like the other way around when it comes to metal
now. Yeah, it's like people are like fucking, I think probably more so with the Metalheads podcast because I'm very behind the scenes with a lot of things.
Yeah,
people think that I'm you. They're like, oh, he's the guy that tees up the gigs, and it's like, no, I'm the guy that does the podcast. My brother's the guy that tees up the fucking gigs.
Yeah.
It's the other. It's like that time we went to the fucking basement. You had to go to. Well, I went to the basement, you went to work, and because I was a fucking barfly at the time, I just, like, as soon as the doors kicked open, I just sat in there all afternoon, and you're like, I'll come down in the afternoon and pick you up.
Yeah.
I'll just, like, Uncle Trent can just fucking look after you all day, like fucking the basement daycare, and I just sat down there all afternoon. And then you come in, and you're like, well, I've got a shift that night, so I'll work, and you can hang out, and then we'll fucking go home.
Yeah.
And we get home, you rock up after work, rather, and I've been sitting at the bar all day, and it's just, like, fucking Trent been feeding me a steady supply of coffee and beers, just so I was, like, on a level. And you walk in, and Kimmy's like, fucking, oi, Marky, you gotta meet this fucking guy, he's from the coast too, like, maybe you guys will be friends. And, like, fucking, it was, like, Kimmy and Rabbit and like all the old Baso regulars, like, sitting around, and we're just, like, chitting, like, sitting on the corner of the bar like we used to, like, all, like, you used to when you went into the bar with the Baso. And we just played it out. You're like, oh, fuck, really? Like, whoa, what part of the coast are you from, man? Like, and like, Trent's just playing into it. He's just like, fucking just rolled it.
Yeah.
Like, fucking...
Yeah, it's literally like, it felt like one of those failed marriages where they got to pretend that they don't know each other and meet each other at the bar.
Yeah.
Like, those ones where, like, the chick will just be there and the dude will come up and just be like, that's a nice skirt you've got there, and try and, like, hit on her. But you know for sure that if they weren't already married, that chick would just be like, fuck off, cunt. But, like, because they're trying to cosplay as a new couple, then it's like, all right, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fun and interesting.
Yeah, but remember we used to do that because we moved around a fair bit. We used to do that a fair bit, like go to a new school and would be like sit there like first day and tee up like, all right, man, what scam are we gonna run? Like
Yeah.
distant cousin, adoptive dude, like his family passed away and we adopted him and he just tags along now. We just like play it off on who got the pity card on the thing, like fucking like when we went to Orange and people like, who's this guy? Like we're like standing next to each other. Like we looked like we, as we do now, always look like siblings, like borderline twinish when we were younger. People like sit next to like the new kid line and they're like, all right, you can hang out with this guy at lunchtime and you can, and they're like, oh, you two brothers? And we're like, no, I don't know this guy. Hey, like how's it going? Like even from like ages like 6 and 9, bro. Like fucking
Yeah, we didn't half stand out because we've had beards since we were 6. So like,
yeah, just fucking, you're 6 years old and you have a beard.
yeah, we did move around heaps, man. And the thing was like, we kind of both had our own separate groups of friends, but like I'd always like keep an eye out for like if something was happening on either side. And then we'd always have like that one friend that was like the stand-in dude in case there was some shit kicking off at school, like the stand-in dude. And there was a few times that like, you know, you don't always have eyes on each other. Like, and I remember you were copping some shit, like being the new kid and that these guys just like picking on you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, so what did you do about it? I just kicked him in the balls. Like, do you remember the fucking, like, there was like 3 dudes all trying to, like, fight
in Orange?
Yeah.
Yeah. You fucking, like, fucking old mates, like, because we were doing karate at that point.
Yeah.
And I was just like the fucking new kid. I was hanging out with my mate, fucking, remember fucking Matthew?
Yeah.
Hanging out with him, and he was
Little Bill Cosby.
Yeah, it looked like Little Bill Cosby. Hopefully he didn't follow suit, but like fucking yeah, man. And
They call him Big Bill now.
yeah, so he was like the outcast because he came from like East Orange.
Yeah.
His mum was like South African.
Yeah.
And like single parent, like fucking poor. And we'd teamed up because we both liked Predator.
Yeah.
And so I'm hanging out with a poor kid, and
He was named after one.
yeah, he's fucking fuck. And he's fucking hanging out with me because I'm the new kid, and them kids come and start giving us fucking shit.
Yeah.
And I just fucking kicked them all in the fucking nuts.
Yeah. No
And
matter
then
how much karate we knew, that was still the safest choice.
default, yeah, that's my purse. I don't know you, like fucking. And like it was just like fucking, and then after I like come home and like Dad just like proud as punch walking around. He's like, yeah, my kid fucking fucked up 3 dudes trying to fight him. But then like remember for a couple of weeks afterwards, we just walked around the school trying to fucking find him. Like coming from a country town school,
Yeah.
where there was like 200 kids across the entirety of the school,
Yeah.
going to fucking Calais.
Yeah.
And there was like 2,000 kids. Like kindergarten had like 6 classes alone.
Yeah, like it's
So it was
fucked.
like fucking big, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we went from a school where there was 100 kids in the whole school, and then when we moved to Orange, there was 100 kids in my year.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it was pretty fucking big, man.
yeah, and the thing is, like, the overwhelming part of it was the first fucking day, this guy had a fucking set on me, and that cunt, like, never left me alone the whole time we were at school. But like I said, we always had the big huss, like the mate that like would stand in, Ben.
Yeah, big Ben, man.
Yeah, and remember he was like a little fucking vandal cunt. Like, he didn't vandalize, but he would just like be mischievous.
Yeah.
And remember the Metro Plaza where we used to have work at Piccadilly? There was like an amusement for the listeners. There was an amusement centre. We both had it was like technically our first job, and basically it was just Dad'd give us a couple of bucks just to like for pocket money, just to go around and make sure all the machines were like we could collect all the coins at the end of the night so he could count them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we'd go through the Metro Plaza. We'd just live off like the free sample lady from from Leonard's Chicken. She does.
Was it Leonard's Chicken?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was Michelle's Patisserie.
Then
and
fucking
then
Leonard's.
fucking Leonard's. Yeah.
Yeah,
man.
so we're doing all that. And I remember once Ben was just like, yeah, I love it at the Metro Plaza, man. I always hit the emergency stop on the escalators and make people walk up them. And you were like, I was going with Dad because there's a subway down the bottom, and Dad used to have to go there to use the toilets, like on the other end of the mall.
Yep.
So you were saying you're just walking through because I was telling you, I got this mate Ben. He's like, we both kind of knew him, how like fucking devious cunt. And we're cruising through. Then all the escalators are off, and you're like, I wonder if Ben's around here. And he just appears like, oh, g'day. And you're like, Johnny, you've been turning these off.
Remember, because we were going to that when Dad was working for the mines and TAFE, and Mum was working for whatever the fuck it was that Mum did, council or something like that.
Yeah, she was like an admin
shit.
Yeah. Data analyst or data enterer.
Yeah, data entry.
Yeah.
And we were at that that after school
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It was like
two.
It was the rough one. It was
The first one.
The first one we went to that was really fucking rough, and it was near where fucking Ben lived.
Yeah, yeah.
So he found out, and he's just like, "Oh, I'll come hang out with you after school." And we're like, "We're not sure you can, man, because it's like a daycare thing, like it's an after school thing, like it's
Yeah.
all supervised, and you can't just come in."
Yeah, yeah.
And he's just like, bullshit, I'll just fucking come in.
I'll just
and he
rock up.
goes to walk through the thing, and the chick that runs the place is like, "Oh, you're not on the books, man. You can't come in and just play with the kids."
Yeah.
So then he comes over, and he's at the fence, and we're talking to him through the fence, and the chick comes back over and is like, "Sorry, man, you have to leave. Like, you can't just loiter around here."
Yeah, yeah. He was in my year, but he looked like he was like 4 years older.
Yeah, dude had repeated a couple of times, like, definitely. And so he's just like, "Well, you can't kick me out. I'm not leaving. I'm just trying to talk to my friends through the fence." And in hindsight, man, the dude had no friends, and he was just stoked that this was probably the closest he'd had to someone coming to his house after school, even though it was like a couple of streets away.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway. And you remember he like fucking threw his razor scooter over the fucking fence. Like, now my scooter's in the fucking yard. You can't get rid of me. And started trying to scale the fence like an obese cat.
Yeah.
And he's like fucking like one leg over, one arm over. And he's like, the teacher's like, "Go, get out of me." Like throwing his scooter over and shit. And he's just like, "Nah, I'm fucking coming in." Like,
What a wild time, man! Because that was so we went to those two after school cares. This is primary school, so I was in like year 5, and you're in like year 3. And we're like, oh yeah, so parents put us in the rough one, and we just have to travel on the bus all the way to East Orange, and even just like on the bus was sketchy. Do you remember like when the last straw, like the bit where we went to Mum and Dad and said, "Mum, Dad, we can't fucking go into that after school place in the middle of East Orange in the early 2000s, mind you." Like, if anyone wants to do any research on crime stats, East Orange 2003, check out how fucking rough that place was.
yeah, I mean, like, it's no rough, but for like, it's not the worst fucking thing in the world.
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah.
for a town in the Central West, like,
The straw that broke the camel's back was when we had to travel over there, and this kid just came and sat next to us, and we get off the bus, and Lukey the nose just goes, "That kid pissed his pants." Do you remember?
yeah, he just reeked of fucking piss.
Because I was like, he smells like potato starch, and you're like, yeah, that's what piss smells like when it's been in the duds for a while.
Yeah, like, he'd just been there. But you see, the bus driver knew, because when he got on, he looked at him and was like, "Ah." Like, he knew, like, this kid had obviously
Yeah.
frequently pissed his pants. The bus driver
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
decide where he was going to put him so he wasn't sitting near him. But, yeah, it was rough, man. Remember, it used to pull up out front of the high school. Canobolis
which
High?
is rough.
And you used to have to fucking hold your breath when the fucking, like, when the seniors got on, like all the Durry Munchers and shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And they would just pick kids up and throw them off the back seat and just be like, "Fuck off, cunt. Like, back seat's ours."
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
well,
was-
we used to sit up the back initially because we're like, well, at least there's no one sitting behind you so they can't, like, blind shot you.
Yeah.
But then by the time we get there, I remember that the reason we were sitting up the front when that piss pants kid came and sat next to us is because we were up the back. We pulled up there, and this chick just comes up, and she had a dummy on a plastic chain, like a
shit.
kid's,
Yeah, I
kid's
remember
dummy.
that, yeah.
And she just had it in her mouth, and she just walks up. This chick's like a teenager, walks up and just pulls it out like a durry, and just goes, "Move your asses." And we were all like, "Oh, fuck." So we scamper all to the front. The only spare seats were like the very front.
Yeah.
Then we go to that spot, and that piss kid gets in.
Yeah, I'll
and that
fucking-
was literally where we're like, I don't care how fucking cheap this place is. We need to find something
Yeah,
else.
and what it was is just availability. It was
Yeah.
like the only place that had availabilities to look after kids in the Orange area that would pick up from school and run it out.
Yeah.
But then then remember we got into the slightly nicer place, which was a little bit like...
Yeah, I think it was called Canard Hall.
Yeah, it was like, it was nicer. And then it got to the point where Dad was just like, fuck it, Marie, the kids are smart enough. Like, Mark's mature enough, they can just get off the bus and go home. And just like, they're not going to open the door to strangers. They're not going to burn the house down. Like, you know, it's going to be right. And we went from riding that fucking rough old bus with a fucking shitty thing to having fucking Barry, the bus driver, who drop us off. He's like, oh, the bus stop's meant to be around the corner from your house, but I'll just fucking drop you. I'll just drop you off in front of your fucking house. And every cunt would get off the bus and just be like, see you, Barry. Like, fucking went from the bus driver who's literally, remember, he'd brake really suddenly and everyone would be like, oh, and he'd be like, sit down.
Yeah.
Like, just that. So Barry, they'd be like, all right, kids, we're going to take a sharp corner now. Everyone hang on. Like, fucking, like the guy that had obviously, like, you know, been through some shit to old mate Baz. There was just like obviously a bus driver just because I guarantee one of his grandkids or something was going to school and he was on that bus run. It'd be some shit. Like there'd be like some wholesome story as opposed to the guy that was probably also a taxi driver and the bus was like the side hustle. He'd been like getting shot and stabbed for 20 years. Like,
I remember one, because my buddy Lockie used to live around the corner from us.
Yeah.
And he also used to be the lock and latchkey kid. Like, so we were at home one arvo, because there was like a house with no steps around the corner. Do you remember that place with all the like dudes? Remember that guy, we used to call him Hello Buddy, that used to just sit out the front and say hello buddy to everyone that walked past? Yeah, so there was like a few people with Down syndrome living in that house. And I remember one afternoon we were sitting at home and I hear a knock on the door and I like looked through the little glass thing, not like knowing not to like open it, and it was one of the Downy dudes from the fucking special house.
Oh, this is in Canard. In Cool Crescent?
Oh no, it was in Canard.
Oh yeah, the first house. Yeah.
And remember down the road from the big boys, dude. Anyway, so
no, that was the street. You were talking about the crack flats. The Downies were in the fucking crack flats.
Do you remember one of those was on fire one night?
Yeah, because one of them owed another. Like one of the crackheads owed. There was one dealer who was in like number 2 flat on the right hand side.
No numbers. Yeah, no.
He's fucking. It's not there anymore. I've already looked. Fucking number 2, and everyone was getting shit off him, and the guy in the corner flat owed him money and never paid him out. So instead of just being like, oh, fuck him up, because the dude was just fucking ducking and weaving him for obviously fucking ages, he just burned his flat down with all of his shit in it.
Oh, dart. So yeah, I remember one night we're all just sitting at home, and the funniest thing, this is some early 2000s shit. An apartment's burning down and everyone's just in their pajamas just watching it, like, oh, there's a bit of entertainment. Like, you know, people all standing around watching an apartment burnt down.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're there and we go around the like Lockie lived around the corner and I seen the dude through the little glass window and I'm just like, oh yeah, I won't open the door. He just pissed off, and then I get to school the next day. Lockie's also a latchkey kid, and I'm just like, what'd you get up to after school yesterday? And he goes, man, I was at home, and my parents said don't open the door, but like I heard someone knock on it, and I opened the door to see who it was. And it was like that Down syndrome dude. And he just goes, do you want to come to my birthday party? And he was like, oh, no, I'm not allowed to go out. And he's like, okay. And walked off. And I was just like, mad cunt. Was just like door knocking for fucking people to come to his birthday.
Yeah, fucking rough.
He said it scared the fuck out of him. He ran back into his room and hid under the blankets, like just like until his parents got home.
Fuck. Man, remember next door to us there in Canard Street, there was old mate Ryan that lived next door?
Yeah, I've talked about him on the podcast before because the last episode I did with Hayden, who we met, we're talking about doing wild shit when we were kids, like without any like idea of consequences to injuries and stuff.
Is it the toe story?
No, we're talking about, I haven't told that, so you can tell that one, but I was in the previous episode was talking about when Ryan's older brother, Jared's older brother Jeremy carried his fucking BMX bike up the fucking palm tree, up the pine tree,
Yeah.
and just rode it down like a slippery dip.
Yeah, man, that was fun as fuck.
While we're just sitting there with like all the cicada shells in our shirts, like holding them, just like, all right, we'll watch you do that.
Yeah.
Because just to climb the tree and get all the shells out.
Yeah, well, we did the same. I'm not sure if you were there because I was pretty easily fucking swayed, but they were the kids in the bottom of the cul-de-sac. They were the cool kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And I climbed and did the same thing with the scooter after he did the bike.
Yeah.
I was like, what else can we jump out of the fucking tree with? And did the scooter, and his younger sister had the fucking, remember when Razor had the fucking, the 2-foot one, you had to like the swivel movement Razor? Yeah. She did it with that and fucking ate shit.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like just fucking kids playing in the background, fucking each other up. Remember, was it Ryan that lived next door?
So Ryan lived next door, but then his mum
started dating,
hooked up with,
and they moved in. They went from fucking. They decided to combine their gubby departments together. And it was we're in the backyard, and
I actually sent the clip of us talking about that tree to Jared. I got him on Facebook.
Oh shit! Yeah. Fuck. There you go.
He was like good times or some shit.
Yeah. We're in the backyard. Remember their older cousin used to come around, the bigger dude?
No, I don't remember.
Anyway, they had the swing set, and we lent the trampoline off the top of the fucking swing set.
Yeah.
So it was like and then you could run at it and jump, and he would fucking throw you. And he ran at it and jumped, and the swings tipped as he fucking jumped, and then bounced back up again. So he got like double the amount of momentum.
Yeah.
And he landed with like his big toe like curled under his foot.
Oh.
And it just like made like a popping noise.
Oh, fuck.
And then it was
like Uncle Bear in sparring?
Yeah, only the bone didn't fucking pop out.
Oh, no.
And he was like, fuck, that's pretty sore, hey? Like, it's pretty fucked. And then we just like we just kept fucking playing. And he started limping. And then like, he went home and was like, his old man was like a hard ass. He's like, Dad, I think I broke my toe. And he's just like, mate, if you had a fucking broken toe, I'd tell you about it. You're like one of them, like, that's not broken.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and then like a couple of weeks later, fucking Jeremy's dad is over because he's like out in the fucking driveway working on his motorbike all the time. He used to
do mad fucking backyard.
He's out there and he's like, give me a look at that toe, boy, and like just puts his finger in the middle of it, and he's just like, yeah, you got a broken toe. Like it's just like, but at that point they went to the doctor and they're like, what are you? And he's like, it's broken toe. It's been broken for like 3 weeks, man. There's nothing we can do about it. Like, you just have to let the cunt set. Like, and just hope you don't get like blood poisoning.
Yeah, that's mad. Yeah, I remember all those, like...
I think that was, like, my first... Like, when we went into that house and Ryan's place, and, like, all the walls had holes and, like, fist holes in them.
Yeah.
Like, just some straight up fucking, like, undiagnosed...
Kyle shit.
Fucking, like, just some, like... angry ADHD, like, fucking, what do you mean I can't have mac and cheese for dinner for the 10th night in a row? Like, fucking...
Yeah, I remember they had a Nintendo 64 with the South Park game on it.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much, like, the prize of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember, like... yeah, that sort of got a bit rough, that neighborhood, because then when the mum shacked up with... the old mate's dad, and that house was now vacant.
Yeah.
Like, some hell dodgy, like, fucking, like, druggies moved in.
Yeah.
And they were just constantly fucking coming and going, like, all day, and then, like, dodgy cars would be pulling up and shit.
And that was when, and it was after the flat fire, Dad was like, nah, fuck this, I'm not having my kids here.
Yeah, then we moved to, like, a mad little quiet
fucking super sick fucking...
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, it was only, like... 2 suburbs over, how much of a difference like 2 suburbs made.
Yeah.
Because it was right behind Keller Heights.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is where all the rich cunts fucking were.
Yeah, yeah, mad. Good times. We moved around a fair bit. Like, I remember before we moved to Orange, when we were living in Granville, we went, oh yeah, let's go for a trip to Tasmania.
Yeah.
And... we eventually ended up liking it so much that Mum and Dad were like, oh, yeah, we're going to move there.
Yeah, when we were in Orange, fucking, they were like, oh, we'll move. But we went for that first trip down when we were kids.
Yeah.
Which was like...
we were super young, hey?
Oh, man, that would have been like 2000.
Yeah, well, it was before we moved to Orange.
Yeah, so it would have been like 99, 2000. So
Yeah.
I was pretty young. I would have been like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
It was like right on that fucking cusp.
Because there was a good few years between when we went there for a trip and when we moved there.
Yeah, so it was we did Orange and we did Tasmania when we moved from Orange, 03, 04.
Yeah.
Just in around there. I don't think it was. It might
It
have
was
been
about 5 years.
Yeah.
Between when we visited, liked it, and then eventually moved there.
because the year we moved from Orange. If we moved from Tassie to Maruya, and that was in 04 because that was the first ever issue of Hit Parader I got. And I remember reading the fucking the article that fucking Dimebag Daryl got shot.
Oh, yeah,
and that
right.
was so like in the thing had a CD, it had a Pantera fucking tribute
Yeah.
like thing, and like reading about like so being like fucking not a fan of reading at the time, listen to the CD and being like, fuck yeah, this is sick, like heavy metal fucking rules.
Yeah, they
like
had a bunch of Pantera samples and shit on there.
Yeah, like more than like just fucking what we grew up with and shit, being like, fuck, this is some sick shit. And then like reading the article and being like, and he's dead.
Yeah,
like, fucking
down. They're just playing fucking like Cowboys from Hell and shit.
Yeah.
So we go down there. This is a memory that like I like forgot about, and then we'll just like most of my fucking stories, I have to like piece it together with someone else that was there. So we go down to Tassie for a holiday. We go into this fucking dodgy like hotel, like a cheap hotel. We sort of decided to park up there for the night.
Yeah, it was in Devonport.
Yeah, so we're going from Launceston to Hobart, but via the coast instead of straight through.
Yeah.
So, because there's like a whole bunch of spots like along the coastline, like the east coast of Tassie that like little towns we're stopping at on the way. Especially having like younger kids, you don't want to pull like an all day trip. You're like better off splitting it up.
Because you can do.
Plus, we're there for a holiday, so we want to rush.
You fucking do all this shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So we pull up there, cheap hotel. One of the ones where like you can read your number plate through the little fucking hole in the little peephole in the door. Like that's that you park in front of your.
Yeah,
fucking
it
thing.
was like the first place we came across with accommodation that would take kids, which fucking,
we worked out why.
Yeah. And it was because remember we went to there was a really nice
Take kids.
Yeah, like we went to that really nice one and they're like, no kids.
Yeah.
And same as that fucking dodgy cunt in Maria that time.
Yeah,
He's just
same
like,
thing.
He's like, yeah, we got a room, and Dad's like, I've got 2 young boys. He's like, no kids.
Yeah.
And then Dad's just like, well, that's not a fucking money front for something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're in Devonport, and it's like the first fucking like hotel with availability to take kids that Dad could go through. Then like stay.
Yeah.
Like it was like the last minute because we've just been driving all fucking day. There was no booking. There was no fucking nothing.
It's like it's like some early. So it was like some late 90s operation. You probably just fucking paid $50 for the night.
Cash, yeah.
Cash. See you later.
$50, yeah.
Anyway, so we roll in there. Mum and Dad unloading the car, and the dude that ran it just comes over and goes like, "Hey boys, you want to see the game room? We've got a game room over here." And we're like, yeah, okay, cool. Because we're like fucking 5 and 6 or
Fucking
something.
kids, man. This guy's offering us candy and we'll fucking grab it.
Yeah, dude. So we go over to the fucking room. And it wasn't game room as in like a specific full game. It was just one of the rooms from the hotel that he's taken all the shit out of. So there's like no bed or anything.
Yeah, it was like
with just a ping pong table in it and a fucking like pinball machine that was like turned off.
Yeah. It was like, and it was like, I remember there being like the fucking stains on the carpet from where the beds used to fucking be.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that yuck, like pulled fucking green with a wood grain wall and the fucking better block walls around it. Like the one feature wall was like a fucking bubbling fucking veneer fucking like wood wall.
Because it is only a different kind of wall because it's dividing the next room.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Get in there. Literally just fucking like, all right, here's the game room. And I remember being like significantly underwhelmed by the fucking game room.
Yeah.
But that wasn't like the worst part about that room. Because once we're both in there, he shuts the door and we're like, oh yeah, so this is the game room.
Yeah, like I'm fucking like, I couldn't even like, not even eye height with a fucking ping pong table. So like,
Yeah.
you know, not alarm bells ringing in the way of like, I don't know this guy now, I'm in the room, being significantly disappointed by the fact there was not cool games, and the only thing there was to play I couldn't play because I wasn't tall enough for the table.
Yeah. So next minute, you know, obviously Dad's cottoned on that the kids aren't here.
Yeah, investigator fucking Ian at work.
And just comes over, kicks the fucking door in and goes, all right, boys, off we go. And just takes us back to the room. We still stay there, but I mean, you can't beat cheap accommodation. But,
Yeah, that's it. Well, you see, and this is the thing.
well, there's no other place to stay.
There's no other fucking place to stay. But remember, Dad, like, fucking put us in the bed furthest away from, like, not near the window, not near the door, not near the bathroom, not near a mirror.
Yeah.
And fucking he sat up all fucking night, pretty much. Like just
Terminator, dude?
Yeah,
just
like
at
just
the door?
slept on and off.
Yeah.
And like he was like up, like 5 o'clock, he was up making a cuppa, like fucking, because the dude he would have just been like, this cunt's gonna fucking try and take the kids in the middle of the night. Dad being dad and being like on the fucking pulse with shit like that. But like, remember he was like, all right, Marie, you finish setting up the fucking room. I got to go fucking chat to old mate about the room.
Yeah.
And like, I haven't talked to Dad about this yet, but I know that would have been some like, mate, I'll fucking break your fucking neck if you come anywhere near my fucking kids.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But like, and I think like the nice part of me likes to think that guy has just probably lost one too many ping pong balls out of his face. Like, it wasn't in the budget to replace him, and that's why he shut the door. But like, in hindsight, we're probably going to get fucked in a room.
Yeah, in hindsight, that ping pong table was... We're going to lose twice at that game.
Yeah, that fucking tears and disappointment, man. It's like, there's no free candy in the back of the van. It's just a tear-stained mattress.
Yeah, I'm still sitting there like, so are you going to turn on the ping pong, the fucking pinball machine?
He's just unzipping his pants. I'm going to turn something on.
Yeah, fucking dude. That guy was fucking... I don't really remember him, but I remember like balding but still had like hair.
Of course he was, man. Probably had glasses like mine.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And but see, Tassie, and that was like... Because that was only a few years after the fucking Port Arthur shootings.
Yeah, well, it would have been.
And then...
Because it was like 99.
Yeah,
was
so-
when we were there, and it happened in 96, I think.
yeah, fucking 96, somewhere around
Something
there.
like that.
Yeah, 96. Because I've done the math in my head after trying to get a gun license. I missed out by 1 year. There was 1 year in my life I could have had a free and easy fucking... If I was old enough. But yeah, so we go through Port Arthur, and when I was a kid, like, my trains at the time was fucking army shit, and it still is. It's just progressed past like toy guns to like books and memorabilia.
Yeah.
We go through Port Arthur, and Dad's like, me being young, of course, like, I want to go to a toy shop. Like, I want to go to a toy shop. Dad, I got to have a toy to take back from Tasmania.
Yeah.
Dad's like, all right, we'll find one. And being just like utterly disappointed that I couldn't buy a toy gun in Port Arthur. Nowhere. No toy shop, no nothing. And Dad trying to explain to his kid, who's borderline meltdown, about, what do you mean there's no fucking toy guns? As PG as he could, is like, well, mate, there was this fella named fucking Martin Bryan.
yeah.
And he's the reason why you can't have a toy gun and why I don't have any guns anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like...
That guy single-handedly fucked both of us.
Yeah. So,
and a bunch of people.
But then there was that fucking servo on the way out of town that was like, you know, it was like, as servos are, just off hinge. It was like, you want a toy, you want a cap gun? We've got it.
Yes.
You want a fucking egg salad sandwich? We got it. Like, fucking roll the dice on which one's going to kill you.
Yeah.
So I get that one, and Dad's like, I suppose it's on the way out of town. We'll fucking, it'll be right to grab him. Like, he's not going to fucking trigger any fucking anyone on the way out of town.
I like how the fucking petrol station was just like, yeah, I mean, there was a massacre, whatever. But, yeah, toy guns, aisle 6.
Yeah, that's so fucking, supply and demand, man. And then we had to circle back through town to do something, because like we were with Sharon and Rob.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we're going to go this way.
Yeah.
And we're like, Dad's like, oh, we'll swing back through town. And I just remember driving through town with the window wound down, and being like the kid I was like, the gun doesn't look to spec. I'm going to pull the red cap off the end so it looks like a real gun.
Yeah.
Hanging out the window with a cap gun, just like done, like just fucking racking up cunts. And Dad's like, probably don't fucking
Probably
do
don't
that.
pretend
Probably-
you're doing a drive-by in Port Arthur.
Yeah, probably don't do that there, man. And it was only
in 99.
it was only like, maybe like 3 years ago. It clicked. I was just like, like you're saying, you piece together memories of shit. And I was like, oh, fuck, we went to Port Arthur, hey. And I was like, oh, yeah, I couldn't buy. Fuck. Like, I was probably somebody's therapy session that week. Like,
Yeah. I tell you what's funny too. It seems like that whole trip was sort of based on like a bit of a budget. Like you're just like,
fuck yeah,
yeah,
it was.
we'll stay at the cheap hotel. Yeah, look, I mean, in '99, not a high demand for people to visit Port Arthur, so like we probably got a deal on that. You know, like it wasn't peak season for.
Yeah, and it was also too like. This every family holiday we went on, man, was based around of like a fucking lower middle class income.
Yeah.
Where, because when we did that, it was towards the end of the year, I remember, and it was like the start of 4th term. Dad's just like, we're going to Tassie for like 3 weeks or whatever it is, and all the teachers were like, why? School holidays are like in 6 weeks. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Dad's like, I was like, since like being older and talking to Dad about this, he's like, fuck yeah, because it was like off, like it was just before peak season, and it was cheap to do it. Like everything was cheap. Like it was like $70 for the trip down on Spirit of Tasmania. If we did it then, as opposed to in the school
like
holidays.
200, yeah.
You know,
and
like,
on top of that too, underrated. Spending school holidays actually at home instead of going away, like when every other cunt's doing it. I've learnt it now as an adult. Christmas holidays, that's when you actually just chill at home while everyone's fucking doing everything.
Yeah.
And then if you want to catch up with family, you do it in fucking January.
Yeah. Oh, it's living on the coast on and off for like the last 16 years, man.
Yeah.
Is like that's what I learned. Like it was, I remember my old guitar teacher used to live out the arse end of the industrial area.
Yep.
And like November, he would go to town with a trailer and like just fucking stock up. Like he was getting ready to bug in, and then you wouldn't see him again in town until January, and he'd just avoid it. And I was talking to him about it once, and I was like, "Why don't you?" He's just like, "It's like, man, I've been living in Maru for like fucking 40 years."
Yeah.
He's like, "I've seen the increase in like floating population." He's like, there ain't no way of pulling out of the industrial area at the start of December to get into town to go buy milk. It turns into like a 5-hour ordeal. It's like, fuck that. So it's like, it's the same. Like you like on the coast, you're just like, fuck it, unless you're going to work.
Yeah.
You just fucking stay at home. And it's rad. People are like, oh, you want to come to the beach? And you're like, fuck, is it like walking distance, or can I ride a bike, or are we going to take one car? Because there's no way 5 of us are going to rock up in our own cars and find a fucking park at the same beach.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it was good fun living down the coast growing up. And to be fair, it wasn't just the beach, it was like the lifestyle. Like everyone's more chilled.
Yeah, I think you get that. You can get that almost most places out of dense population. So, like, you coming from Canberra, you could go to somewhere like Goulburn, which is still fairly relaxed, but still like significantly larger in population, but still like a step back in like the hustle and bustle of things.
Yeah, and close.
But like I've moved a few more times than you, like town wise, and you always take. It doesn't matter where you are, you take the things for granted. Like hindsight's always 20/20. Like after I moved from Goulburn, I was like, fuck man, there are so many cool things in Goulburn I could have done that I didn't take advantage of. And then like moving away from the Bay recently, being like fuck, there, like it was a sort of thing of like life coming together pretty well, with the exception of like finances in Bateman's Bay, being like fuck, like I was really like, you take that for granted when you're there, but it makes you appreciate it so much more when you go back for a little bit. Like now when I go down to Bateman's Bay, having time like to reflect on like, oh man, that was really cool about Bateman's Bay, or I really miss this person or something. Yeah. You appreciate it a little bit more, or hopefully you appreciate it a little bit more. I mean, the way you act in the fucking moment's one thing. You walk away from it, like how many times you walk away and you're like, Fucking like, oh, I've got to do this. When I go here, I've got to do this
Yeah.
because I really enjoy that. And then
Yeah.
you leave and you're like, fuck, I didn't do the fucking thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you're like, I just want to put my feet in the water and I want to fucking hug this person and all this sort of shit. And you go nowhere near a beach and you don't even bother to contact the person you wanted
Yeah.
to hang out with. Like, it's that shit.
Yeah. We were talking about stories before, and things that you piece together in memory. And we're going to close out the show with a story that we pieced together. This is a fucking classic, so let's get into story time. Come on, grab your friends. We're all...
Already forgot this one.
Okay. The fun will never end. It's...
Story time.
There we go. All right, let's get into it. So, I'll set the scene. We're in... It starts off kind of grim because we're both in our hometown, because we just went to one of our uncle's funerals, and we decide, all right, let's go down to the pub. This is years ago. I think you hadn't been drinking, like you hadn't been legal to drink for a while.
I had been drinking for a while.
But
I
like
hadn't been
you were
legal.
only like 19 or something.
I would have been
think.
19.
Yeah. So we
Yeah, it was not long after I started at the Golfie. I would have been 19.
Yeah, so I remember because our uncle used to drink 4X, so we go down to the pub and we're like, all right, let's have a couple of fucking 4Xs in memory of the uncle, right? So we go down there, we like have a couple of 4Xs, and Lukey being like on the drink at the time was just like, all right, I can only drink this piss for long enough, let's fucking move on to something else.
Yeah, I move on to my fucking 2 years old and a side of fucking Jammo or something like
Yeah,
that.
so we're sitting there hitting 2 years old, and there's a restaurant behind the bar, which is it's a country pub. You'd expect just like Palmer's and Snitties, but he's doing like full fucking like Vietnamese food.
Yeah, so he was the only guy, so they sublease it. So
Yeah.
this guy's obviously fucking fresh off the boat and he's like up in Sydney and he sees like an advertising for pub lease. So he's come down from Sydney
Yeah.
and he's taken over that. So like where it was like a country style pub, he's come in and he's just like, well, I'll cook what I fucking know. And because it's small country town, there's no like fucking like no Asian food.
Yeah.
He had the market fucking cornered. Like it was just like, fuck it, where else are you gonna go get your fried rice, cunt? Like,
Yeah, that's right. So we're in there, and we're like having a couple drinks, and we noticed that the dude from the restaurant, Tommy, is coming out and ordering like a midi of old,
yeah.
but like every like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Like he's
Lad Slam is like lad's coming out, checking his fucking and I knew like after working in Clubland for a little bit and being a fucking alcoholic, one, I recognized that he's a fucking alcoholic.
Yeah.
And two, the dude was on the fucking bet.
Yeah.
So like he was putting money on Keno, trackside, and the fucking dogs.
Yeah.
And between every docket was walking out, like checking all the fucking screens, not just the one, but all of them, and checking his fucking Keno.
Yeah.
And just like you'd see cunts come up, order food, and the money wouldn't even go in the till. He'd just come back out to the bar every like 15 fucking minutes.
Yeah. So he's going out. And we're drinking old. So we're just fucking around. Like I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, next beer I order, pour an extra midi and leave it for the old mate that's coming out.
Yeah.
So he looks over, he's sort of looking at us, gives us a cheers, and goes back out. We've kind of developed a bit of an unspoken fucking like cheers for the food. You're a mad chap, dude. And he's just coming back and forth, but. Bar's like quiet. I think it's like a weeknight, like
Yeah,
it's a
it was-
Thursday or something.
Yeah, it was like Thursday.
And towards the end, but not quite Friday. And there's like a few other barflies just hanging around. There's a few girls there on a night out, that sort of shit. But there's like this one geezer, and Lukey and I are just there by ourselves. But you're just like, man, I don't know this cunt's name, but I'm pretty sure that dude over there is friends with Uncle Bear.
Yeah.
Because I was out there a few weeks ago, and this dude came out, and I just stood there awkwardly while they talk shit for like an hour, and just sort of like chimed in with a word every now and again.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know if he remembers me, but that dude's like a mate.
Yeah.
So we're fucking sitting around. We're just like having a few more drinks. Night simmers down. I don't know. Do you want to tell the bit about how the rowdy fucking chicks table started getting up,
Oh,
Tommy?
yeah, there's like this fucking I'll call it what it is, man. She's fucking not around to yell us out anymore.
Yeah.
This redneck cunt in the thing that's like fucking calling out Tommy, like, Tommy, why don't you fucking cook us a steak instead of these spring rolls?
Yeah.
And like, this is just after I'd got off my fucking train, and I'm trying to stick up because dude cooked us a fucking mad feed.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be fucking, Joe Citizen.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, you fucking come here to a Chinese restaurant and you want the dude to cook you a fucking steak.
Yeah.
And she just looks me dead, or she didn't, because one eye was pointing out here. And she's just like, Tommy's fucking Vietnamese, you dumb cunt. And I was just like, oh, you fuck.
Yes.
Like, got called out by the fucking trash. Like,
Yeah, dude.
So, but like, Tommy fucking heard that. Tommy, because he was like, oh, yeah, like, I'll fucking, I could cook you a steak. Like,
Yeah.
just tell me what you want and I'll fucking cook you a fucking steak. Like, tell me.
He needed the
like,
money for the next
yeah,
slap.
Yeah, like, he's like, whatever you want, man. I got a dog in a race that I need to put money on.
The dog's at my door.
Yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. Dog's in the pot, bro. And he's just like fucking, so he hears that, and then he's like fucking, well, I'll come hang out, because they're all like, just every time he came out, she's like heckling with him.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
fucking cook me this. Why won't you cook me this? Like, put that fucking Asian shit away. You're in a country town. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, dude.
So, and then like me trying to be fucking nice was
Yeah.
like sticking up for him. So then he started coming over, and like, instead of, he's coming out and still checking his races and shit.
Yeah.
And he comes over and starts like fucking necking his middies at the table with us.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing was, like, he was kind of cleaning up after each meal. Like, he did like a full pack down and was just making enough mess to make one meal and then cleaning it up as he was going. Like, he'd been shut for a while, but he just wasn't going to say no to a customer.
Yeah, well, to put money on a bet. Man.
Yeah,
Let's call them as what it is.
So he comes out and he's just having his middies with us, and it gets to the point where the bar shuts. We have last drinks, and they kind of did a bit of a lock-in for last drinks. So they're like, all right, stay here. No one else can come in, but you got time to finish your current drink and then fuck off.
Yeah.
Because the front doors are shut, we're all sitting there, and by this point, old mate that was like Uncle Bear's friend had just come and sat with us, because it was like either that or stand by himself, because he wasn't going to go sit with all the chicks on their fucking night out.
Yeah.
So he's just sort of sitting there listening to Tommy talk broken English and fucking just like smile and nod and having a couple drinks, that sort of shit. And the fucking... I
was still smoking at that point.
Yeah,
remember? And that's how we got to the cream of this story.
So once we all finish our drinks, it's just me, you, Tommy, and like the random dude that's Uncle Bear's friend.
Yeah.
And let's call him Bobo. And we go out the back, and we're all standing around.
Yeah.
And old mate Bobo pulls a
fucking Wendy out of his
pulls the Wendy out of the back of his winnies.
Out of the back of his winnie. So I'm rolling a dart. I smoke a dart. We're all like, Tommy's fucking smoking one. You would have had one of your little Captain Blacks.
Whatever I had,
and, we're fucking... we're there and we're smoking it, and then fucking Bobo pulls out the Wendy out of the back of his thing. And we're just like, what fuck? Like, and he's like smoking it, and like we're like talking. I'm like, Tommy's also like obviously fucking knew exactly what it was as soon as he sparked it up. And he's like,
his eyes lit up.
I was like, oh fuck yeah, and then they didn't like it.
Oh, but here's the funny thing. Bobo says, oi, do you just want any of this?
Yeah.
Do you want some of the Wendy?
Yeah.
And I remember you were just like, man, because you were still a bit fucked up from the inside thing. So you were like, man, we need to just get out of here before I fucking lose me marbles.
Yeah.
Because you already had a few black beers, plus you were fucking on edge about old mate.
Yeah.
And I knew no doubt that chick was about to pile out the back too, and then we'd have to be dealing with her.
Yeah.
So we were just like, all right, man, just fucking, smoke your Wendy, and then we're going to fuck off. And then he offers it to you, and you're just like, nah, man, like, I'm not really going to have a go of it.
Because I had that. It was not long after I'd quit weed, because I had that bad fucking run in, man.
Yeah, and then Tommy's hooked into her, and then you're like, yeah, man, I don't smoke weed, man, because like, I've got this experience, and you start talking about what they call your friend.
Oh, so we're Well, yeah, I tell him why I'm not smoking weed, and I'm talking about like trying to do that thing to justify, like, oh, but I don't hate it, man. I've got heaps of friends that smoke weed. And I'm telling the story about like down the coast. I had a friend that worked at the Nepalese restaurant.
Yeah.
And he'd just like run out, clear as many plates as he could just so he could go and have a dart out the back, and they'd just call him to fucking like, oh, you got to come like clear more plates. And the guy, like, because he's smoking rollies all the fucking time. And the guy that ran the Nepalese restaurant was just like, you smoking joints all the time? And he's like, no, he's like, they're just fucking rollies.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, right. And he starts calling him Jimmy the Bong. And he's just like, oi, Jimmy the Bong, we got more plates for you to clear. And he's like out the back, and he's like, you'd come in, he'd be like, yeah, Jimmy the Bong. Hey. And you'd like, see him downtown, he'd be like, Jimmy the Bong. Like, fucking... You'd see it would be like downtown, man. Would be like walking around the markets or some shit, and you'd just hear like fucking old mate, I can't remember his name now, from like across the crowd, just be like, because like Jim's fucking big tall cunt.
Yeah.
You'd just hear him say, oh, Jimmy the Bong. You'd just like, hey, like fucking.
So we're all standing around. Lukey's just telling this story to like Bobo, me, and Tommy.
Yeah.
And Tommy's like thinking about the story, but not saying anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Bobo hands Tommy the joint.
Yeah.
And he just takes a mad inhale, and we're all just watching him fucking like just basically smoke the whole thing in one draw, like what was left in one draw.
That cunt like it was a clove, yeah.
Yeah, and then he just exhales the whole thing, looks at us, and just goes,
Jimmy the Bong.
and then he just goes, Jimmy the Bong. And
he
just keeps saying it over, and Lukey just pulls out his phone and just starts fucking audio recording it. And he's like, dude, say it again. And he's like, Jimmy the Bong.
He's saying it. And like, because we're all like fucking, like, Bobo's pretty stoned by this point. And like, this is like really fucking tickling his pickle. So he's like doubled over laughing.
He's doubled over laughing. I've got my flip phone out and I'm trying to like film it, but I'm laughing so hard. And I'm like, I'm like fair few beers in at this point, dude. And we just look over.
Bobo's struggling for his high vis top pocket, bro. Pulls out the old fucking Nokia brick. And he's like, how do I fucking record on this thing? Like, just furiously mashing the one of 6 buttons he had to
like a senior's phone.
Yeah, it's like the fuck. How do I record on this thing?
And I like to think to this day he worked it out, and his ringtone was fucking Jimmy the Bong.
Jimmy the Bong.
And dude, we all just fucking walked away like
that
a
was
flash
it.
mob.
That was the last time I seen it. Tommy went back to Sydney long after that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Bobo since.
Yeah, I actually think that Bobo passed away a few years ago.
Fuck, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when he was chatting to us at the table when Tommy went away, he was telling us about how like he might have they might have found cancer or some shit. Yeah, so hey, but anyway, that's the fucking story time of the episode, and that concludes the fucking episode.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, we'll have more content on the Metalheads podcast between now and the end of the year. So if you want to hear more of me and Lukey talk, check out the Canberra Metalheads, and check out any upcoming gigs or anything, all on my website, markycomedy.com. Cheers. Episode 102, signing out. Don't
Cheers,
buy
guys.
me a drink. Just name names.
Yeah, right, Big Tony. You'll get fucking thrown out of the strip club with your floppy disk.
all day.
Make people feel ashamed for shit all day.
Don't blow
Turn it
it.
into a hard drive.
Yeah, right. You'll get fucking- We're here to
Keep it simple. Count your money.
that they're not proud of. Just give me $10.
Click.
Did you hang up?
No, I just said click.
Well, what was the noise you're making at the start?
Oh, fucking.
Yeah.